So I'd like to talk about a clip from the ManifoldOne podcast, hosted by Steve Hsu. Steve Hsu is a professor of theoretical physics at Michigan State University. And as far as I can tell, he's a true polymath. He seems to have a firm understanding of genetics, economics, physics, and probably other stuff too. Clearly, big brain. His guest here is Scott Aaronson, who also clearly has a big brain. He's a professor at currently at the University of Texas at Austin, and he was previously at MIT. He specializes in quantum computing. So both of these guys are clearly incredibly smart, but of course, incredibly smart people can still be wrong. And I think that happens here when they discuss AGI and general AI safety. We're going to get into the clips, but I'd like to start with a kind of high-level takeaway, or at least that I'm taking away from what we see here, and it's this. Genius does not rescue you from the need to fully investigate a problem if you want to understand it. So that's my high-level takeaway from this. Let's get into the clips.
I am still doubtful that you could take, let's say GPT-3, which is the text engine, and that you're just going to scale it up to, a few orders of magnitude more neurons. And then suddenly it's going to have desires and intentions, and it's going to rebel against its creators and take over the world.
That's not the fear. Okay, that's anyone who's actually serious about this risk is not worried about that sort of scenario, because essentially what he's describing there is a kind of Terminator scenario, and there's a clear kind of anthropomorphizing of the AI entity. That's not what Bostrom, Yudkowsky, et cetera, are worried about. The worry is more that essentially the utility function of this entity is not perfectly aligned with the broad utility function of humanity. Something like this, not anthropomorphizing, not desires and intentions, not a Terminator scenario where for some reason they turn malevolent. Nothing like that. That's not the worry. You could imagine something like a high frequency trading algorithm. This thing can malfunction. We've had flash crashes before in the financial markets. There's no desires from the HFT algorithm. There's no intentions there. There's no rebellion. There's no malevolence. But you still have a kind of malfunction and a kind of disassociation between what the algorithm is doing and human values and goals. Okay, now extrapolate that out to something that's super intelligent and has a general intelligence, not just confined to trading stocks, right? That sort of thing is the worry. All right, let's go to the next clip.
Yeah, I mean, an argument I often make to these folks is that probably the first few of these things are going to be very human-like. I mean, a lot of the intelligence they develop will be through looking at examples that came from humanity, and even if they get rid of us, maybe by accident without noticing, they're still kind of like us. So they're like our, evolutionary descendants, and good luck to them in the rest of the universe. Right?
Yeah.
So the main problem here is that he's imputing or assuming consciousness within this AI entity thing, however it ends up occurring. There's no reason to assume that consciousness is going to reside in this thing. It might, but we have no idea. We don't fully understand consciousness. It might be that consciousness is simply an emergent property of complex information processing. That's possible, and if that's the case, then this thing will be conscious. And if that's the case, then Steve's point is essentially correct here. And I think that's not the worst case scenario. At least there would be some sort of conscious entities in the universe, or in the known universe, and that would be much better than the alternative. It's possible though that consciousness is not simply an emergent property of complex information processing. It could be that consciousness is directly intertwined with having a body. So this is from Antonio Damasio, and he seems to very much favor this hypothesis that actually consciousness is like very important in regards to homeostatic like mechanisms, and it's directly intertwined with an actual physical body. And so perhaps if this whatever form this AI takes, if we instantiate it in an actual physical body, then perhaps it will be conscious if we go with this Damasio line, and perhaps not if it's not in a physical body. That's another possibility. But the main point here is that we don't know exactly how consciousness functions. We don't know if this thing, like assuming superintelligence or something like this occurs at some point, we don't know if that thing is actually going to be conscious. And so this argument that whatever these things will be our evolutionary descendants, and it's going to be good luck to the world, it's fine. Well, there's the annoying possibility that these things won't be conscious at all, and they'll be a kind of philosophical zombie. They'll just be machines with no life or awareness, or no consciousness at all. The lights aren't actually on, right? And this would be a kind of deep horror that I don't think Steve is appreciating here. Okay, last one.
The way that I would think about it is that, like, I hope that our civilization survives long enough for these to be, the most urgent problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like there's so many mundane things. I mean, from, climate change to, to pandemics, as we're now suffering through, to nuclear proliferation, that I feel like if we can survive all of those things to the point where AI becomes sort of the most pressing concern, then, we will have done pretty well, right?
Yes.
So I'd like to call this the retirement argument. Essentially, the logic being put forward here is like, it would be great if we have savings for retirement and that everything works out by then. But I mean, that's so far away. Who knows if we're even going to survive up to that point? So, why plan for it? It just, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Why invest money? Why plan for this? Why be prudent about this? That's, it's not necessary. Clearly, that would be fucking stupid when it comes to planning one's retirement, because in all likelihood, we will get there eventually. And it really would have been better to have a plan and resources set forward for that scenario, just in case, right? I think there's an analogous situation here, except instead of it just being, one's own life. Look at the stakes here, right? So instead of it just being like a standard retirement situation where you only have some 20 years left. And so if you poorly plan for retirement and don't have enough savings, et cetera, in order to have a good quality of life during this time, it's only 20 years or so, which is not great, but that's not the end of the world. Now expand it to the what we're talking about here with this kind of AGI or superintelligence scenario. This could affect things for billions of years. Just on the Earth, again, I haven't looked at the exact numbers on like how like when the sun explodes, etc. But I believe it's billions of years from now. So just from the individual person standpoint, we're talking about not a 20-year retirement, but billions of years. I'm assuming in a superintelligence situation, we're going to unlock essentially immortality, right? Like the ability to conquer aging and essentially death. Okay, so already from an individual standpoint, you're talking about something that is so many orders of magnitude larger than just a simple retirement scenario. Now extrapolated not just from an individual person, but to all of humanity and everyone that is ever going to live in the future. We're talking about billions of years, possibly trillions of humans. Those are the stakes. So, needless to say, I'm not compelled by this retirement argument. I think it clearly does not take into account the possible magnitude of the stakes here. And it doesn't even make sense on the face of it, because we literally don't take that argument when it comes to something as simple as basic retirement. All I'm saying, and I think all the people who are worried about this problem are saying, is it would be prudent to make sure this goes well. That seems like a good idea to me. And I don't know, I guess we'll finish with this. The points that I made have already been made by smarter, more eloquent people than me. Sam Harris, Yudkowsky, Bostrom, Stuart Russell, Max Tegmark, right? It's just a little bit confusing to me that people who are clearly as smart as Shu and Aaronson are making these sorts of, no offense, but like relatively basic errors. So That's confusing, and I feel like the high level takeaway that I gave before is kind of the punchline here. Genius does not rescue you from the need to fully investigate a problem if you want to understand it.